And can we please rise to say the Pledge of Allegiance? And do we do roll call first? Did I blow that? You want to do roll call? We're up. And we're out of order, but what else is new? All right, ready, begin.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Now we can take roll call.
Commissioner Roddick?
Here.
Commissioner Intner?
Here.
Chair Haney?
Here.
Commissioner Ford?
Here.
And absent, Commissioner Becker, and Vice Chair McCrory Rylander, and Commissioner Basor.
Okay. We are open for public comments. Is there anyone that would like to speak? Okay. Has everyone read the regular meetings from October 3rd? And the special meeting on October 15th? And the regular meeting on November 7th? And if so, do we have a motion to approve the minutes?
So moved. We do all three at once.
You certainly may do that.
And
I'll second that.
all in favor?
Aye.
Okay. Presentations, we have the Ojai Day report, which should be wonderful. And we have the Ojai Day coordinator, Amber Young. So Amber, you have the floor.
Thanks. Good evening, Chair Haney and Commissioners. Thank you so much for having me. I have a couple of fancy handouts from you, for you, not from you. Give them this one first, and then this one second. Thank you. So this evening, we're just going to go over a little bit of the financials associated with Ojai Day. I should mention that these have not been verified by our finance department, and so these are preliminary numbers, but I did do my best to make sure that they were as right as I could see them, and as complete. So this first handout that I have for you includes our extra event. We did a little bit of an experimental event prior to Ojai Day this year, and that we put a concert on in the Libby Bowl. And being its first year and the first one of its nature, it did not go as successfully as we would have liked for it to as far as attendance, and therefore it ran at a pretty substantial loss of about $5,000. Fortunately, we did, you can see it there on, on the second line down. Oh shoot, it lost the budget on there. Oh, no, it didn't. The expenditures did run about $1,000 under budget, and so we didn't have quite as much to lose as we had originally thought. And so that's where we kind of came out with that. And so moving on from there, our event, we were kind of hoping without the concert. Did you give them out the second handout as well?
No, I will do that now.
Okay, great. We're done with the first one because that
Okay.
one's not fun. With the concert, our event did end up coming in about $1,000 under what we had expected it to.
Success.
We did manage to reduce the deficit by about $20,000 from 2012 to 2013. So, and the primary reasons for this are the cost of the coordinator was reduced quite significantly, as well as, and then our revenue was just so much higher. We were able to meet or exceed our revenue projections in almost all categories with the exception of activities. We have not received one payment from one of our activities during the day, which is, of course, the the beer and wine garden that the Lions Club do, and we have kind of an honor system with them, in that they choose how much they'd like to contribute to the event. So we don't know how much to anticipate from that at this point. So, and this year we were very excited to be able to offer 2 points of sales for alcohol and really get the Lions Club out there on the street. Another point of higher expenditure was the security for the event. The police was increased by about $500, and that's due in large part to the concert the night before, and also an increased presence during the painting of the mandala the night beforehand. We have in the past had significant issues with people exiting the bar around 2 or 3 o'clock in the morning and harassing the artists that are still on the street completing the work. And so we thought it was a worthwhile expenditure to step up the patrols and have it be safer and more pleasant for them as they provided that contribution for our community. And in addition to the extra expenditures at the mandala, we did go about $250 over what we were expected in the purchasing of supplies. And that is a cyclical expenditure, and that one year it's going to be very expensive because we're going to have to buy lots and lots of paint and lots of paintbrushes, and the next year we'll have more paint and more paintbrushes left over, so it'll be less. And so we have stored our paintbrushes better than in past years, and so hopefully that expenditure will go down, and we'll be able to reduce that for next year significantly. So overall it went fairly well.
Well, guys, do we have any questions?
I just have one on the concert. Was that the night before concert?
Yes, sir.
That was, okay. And their tickets were sold for that event?
Tickets were sold for that event. There was a bit of a miscommunication somewhere along the line with the press, and that people thought it was a free concert, which I can understand with the connection with Ojai Day, and that most things that Ojai Day offer are free. And so whether or not the city decides to go forward with that in the future is still up for debate. I don't know whether or not it's a worthwhile project.
Okay, so when you say the city, does that mean you?
No.
When I say that, what do you mean by the city?
I think that direction, I would imagine that direction comes from.
Well, I mean, ultimately, those decisions are made as a team, and so those are decisions that lie within the department, since it's within the discretion of our budget.
Okay, so I guess the question I'd come back to you is, if you had to do that concert again, what would you do differently?
I would start earlier and I would market stronger.
Yeah.
Okay, so it was due to those two things, it worked at a loss. Mm-hmm. But the reality is, the concert actually is a good idea, and actually probably could be a revenue generator if we did it right.
I feel that the concert could be a revenue generator given the right performers and the right amount of marketing. I think that I still like the idea of an event in the bowl that's really purchase price friendly for people, well, in my generation, who, trying to go out as a couple for $40 is not necessarily something that we would choose to do all the time. And so whether or not that's going to play out in the future, I don't know. Did
the cost, was that for the performers themselves?
The majority of the cost actually came from the lights and the sound. The sound for the event was $1,700, and the lights came in just under $3,000, and that's just the rental, just under $2,000, and that's just the rental of the lights, because we were very fortunate to have a light designer actually donate their time to come out and set everything up and run the lights for us.
So when we did the remodel and stuff, it didn't take into account any lighting on the stage or anything? Is that what we're saying?
There are house lights. If you wanted to have a concert that was just washed in light with a bunch of people standing on the stage, you wouldn't have to spend any money on lights. But if you want anything like different colors or any type of production lights, you're looking at $2,000 to $3,000 for minimal level.
So Amber, this is what I'm reading. I'm reading that the 2012 actual was a negative $22,000. Mm-hmm. And what I'm looking at for 2013, we generated 40,200, correct? Our expenditure.
We generated 39. It was the actual,
budget was
the
40.
budget was
But you-
40.
Yeah, you budgeted 40, we generated 39, so we're a negative $2,000. Mm-hmm. You should be applauded for that.
Exactly.
Oh,
I
thank
mean,
you.
what
You did an
an
incredible
outstanding
job.
deal. You did a great job. It was great.
Incredible job.
Thank you very much. And I would like to take all the credit for that, and I should point out that, that the Ojai Day team worked extremely hard and just really went above and beyond on every single front. We were able to reduce our staffing costs by $10,000 from 2011 to 2013. So that comes down to multiple individuals and not just myself.
Well, you did a great job.
Yeah, outstanding job. It
Well,
was
thank you
great.
very, very much.
Family loved it. It's outstanding.
Okay, so the same question, I want to go back to you. You did a great job, how are you going to do, what are you going to do differently next year? What do you see some of the weaknesses of it were, and obviously the positives were clearly demonstrated, but what are some of the things that you might do differently to even enhance this even more?
Going forward, I think that as far as where we are financially, I don't know that it's going to get much better than this. There's not a whole lot of any kind of fat left to chew off, and things are getting more expensive. The road closure was significantly more expensive this year. We had to rent 3-compartment sinks that we haven't had to rent in the past because of the county health department requirements. And so there are things that are outside of our control. And I feel like those things are just going to continue to get more expensive and more onerous on the event. But as far as making the entire event a better experience for everyone, I think that a longer term, more thorough marketing plan and really pulling the community in that way and getting them excited about the event makes it last beyond just the single day. And so I think that's a huge area of improvement. And then I think going forward, making sure that on a production level, we're very, very well organized and we have experienced people so that it's a pleasant experience for the team members who come out and do so much for so little to want to come back every year, and we don't have a high rate of burnout. I think that those are the 2 primary areas that we can really improve.
Well, I think you did a wonderful job. Great job.
Thank you very much.
Okay.
It was a
Thank-
pleasure.
Couple
you.
comments before we leave the topic. I just, and one, I thank the commissioners for picking up that this is a significant change financially from what we've done historically on this event. We didn't provide you the historical data, but as I think you well know, the event has ranged anywhere, and stop me or correct me if I'm wrong, anywhere from losing, $10, $15, $20, $25,000. It's kind of bounced around in that area for the last 10 years. Again, that's not a criticism. It's very, very difficult to run this type of event and even come close to being able to break even. So what our goal was going into this year was to try to reduce that loss to no more than $10,000. So you can see, even with the concert,
Great job.
Still exceeded
and
the goal.
Amber
Yeah,
just did a great job
totally.
of exceeding the goal there. So, and I think the added plus side is, you can point to some things like the concert and maybe some minor tweaks that, hey, there are, in other words, there are additional steps that we see that we can do that could probably concretely cut into that even more. So, realistically, whether could we ever make this event break even? I still think it's still worthwhile to pursue that, but I don't know, to try to get a street
Yeah,
fair
exactly. Pretty
to
close.
break even is pretty hard. And then again, I'm not trying to sugarcoat this, but you do have to think about what the economic impact is. True, there are some merchants who say, I really don't care for Ojai Day, or it doesn't do much for me. I have also heard directly from other merchants who have said that it's their biggest day of the year. And it's also a source of city pride. I ran into, very briefly, an individual yesterday in Oxnard, and he was an Oxnard resident, and he said, I have been coming to your street fair since I was 8 years old, and I love it, and I look forward to it every year. In fact, he was saying, you guys need to do more of that kind of stuff. So There is that benefit as well, too. And of course, we don't see those numbers on this piece of paper in terms of what the economic benefit is to the folks in the town and the businesses.
Well, every restaurant that I seen in town was full. Rainbow Bridge was packed. They were out the door. So even those little places over there.
Behind the arcade.
Behind the arcade were getting business. So
One thing I would like to mention that this year we had just over 190 vendors. That includes all the nonprofits in the park, as well as everybody on the street. That doesn't include anybody that was in the fantastic skate park area. Those were kind of worked as separate sponsor vendors, and so we did not include them. And of the over 190, 80 of those groups were from Ojai or from the Ojai Valley at large. And so I think that there's that it feels like there's a true benefit in that, those groups come back year after year. It's just a couple of success stories. We were very fortunate having Summit School decided to do guacamole bowls this year. They sold out and had a fantastic sales day. The Turtle Conservancy expanded their area and actually brought tortoises in this year, and that was a huge part of the event. And so I think there are groups that are wanting to get more involved with Ojai Day and having it be a bigger day for their organization. The village merchants make the shopping bags and put their store right out. We put their shop right out in front of the arcade. And then this year too, we were able to put all of the downtown businesses, actually their names on the map, and trying to kind of start that outreach effort in making it better. Because if we can make it better for somebody in Ojai, we want to. And I think that the relocation of the Ojai's own area seemed really positive. I got nothing but positive feedback from having them closer to the mandala and the center of the event, and having only local artists on the stage down there, I think really made it feel special for them and made it a better event. And we do our best to make it as easy for those businesses and artists that want to be a part of the event. We charge, I think their vendor fee is $150, and we provide a canopy for them, so they don't have to worry about bringing a bunch of stuff out. They're basically paying for their canopy and for the administrative cost of processing them, and that's pretty much it. So we do our best to make it as easy as possible.
Well, it showed.
yes, it did.
It was
Great
a huge
job, Amber.
success. Yeah, great job, Amber.
Thank you very much.
Okay.
One just last quick thing, we will come back with a final report once we have all the numbers in. So you will see that as a future staff report to the commission. Thank you.
Thank you, Steve.
Thank you.
Well, the police department is not here.
Yeah, Sergeant Arthur did let me know ahead of time that he was not going to be able to make the meeting. He did go through the logs, and there was not any significant activities or changes or trends that he had to report since his last report. So he will be ready to give a report on the full statistics when hopefully he gets back in front of us in January or whenever our next meeting is.
Well, I believe as the temperature goes down, so does the crime. The bad guys just don't like to get cold.
It changes, that's for sure.
They just don't like getting cold. Okay, so why don't we turn the floor over to Greg Grant, our Public Works Director?
Good
Great.
evening, Commissioners and Chairman. I guess as a quick update for Public Works Department, there was number one is, I guess one of the things, I'll warm up our machine here. In a minute, we'll talk about that. But I did want to update quickly on Sarzati Park. We're doing really well on the upgrades over there. Hopefully people have had a chance to stop by. We've got most of the front office complete. The art room has been repainted, and most of that's done. They still have to put the acoustic tiles up on the ceiling and finish out the cabinetry and a couple of things more. The recycled bulletin boards we're putting up on the walls. But anyways, it's coming along. The multi-purpose room, I think we've got the commissioner's dinner planned. Is it next weekend? And it's going to be in there.
13th.
Friday the 13th.
Friday the 13th. Okay, that sounds a little horror show there, huh? And so I think that's going to be in there, and it'd be a good chance to see some of the improvements that are going on up there. But the goal is to have it all done by the end of December, and he's close. It's going to be a tough run here, but I think he's going to make it. And I did want to mention also out at Sarzati, we just bought a new lawnmower that was budgeted this year. So we've got this new Toro, I don't know, I'm thinking Chair Haney probably remembers these models, you know.
Probably
so-
523D or something like that.
Okay, that sounds about right. Okay, so-
Is that on your wish list?
Actually, you guys did a great job with that purchase.
Yeah, it's a nice mower. We got a good model that was discounted a bit, and it's amazing. The thing travels about. You can mow almost at 12 miles an hour with it. So
Right.
it actually has cut down the mowing time in half from what it was before,
Nice. Well, that's a
for the
huge
better
change.
cut and everything. So that's great for the crew, for everybody. Yeah, and it's a better cut too. Right, we're not getting as much scalping as we had before.
We used to have a motto, Greg, it was, we got to mow till there ain't no mow. So that's what you guys will be saying. They'll be mowing their hearts out, huh?
At Libby Park, I want to mention that, for one thing, the parking lot that's adjacent to that, you know, next to Los Caporelli's restaurant we just renovated that parking lot a few weeks ago. So hopefully you noticed that. That was all repaved and restriped and everything. So that's a primary access to the Libby Park. I think Amber just mentioned the three-bay sink situation. So we had budgeted for that, and we bought a expensive, really tough stainless steel sink. I think it was $2,200 just for the three-bay sink by itself. And that was installed in time for the for Ojai Day, and then a different inspector came from Environmental Health Department and brought up quite a few issues which we're having to change on the whole sink setup. And the Lavender Festival has been very generous in that they're helping out with a contractor they want some changes to the baseboards and the paneling behind the sink and a couple other issues. So that's getting taken care of as well. But at least we'll have that for the future, the three-bay sink. And as another thing we finished up for the Ojai Day was the tile in front of the gazebo area that was all broken up where skateboarders were hitting that. So we added a rail, which didn't work out great for the belly dancers, but I think they were able to work around it okay. So we put a rail in to protect that, because every time we repair that tile, it's very expensive, custom tile, donated from RTK, the studio here in town. And as soon as we put it up, it starts getting broken. So I think we'd had enough of that. We put in this rail right in the center of that area. And it seems to be working for now, so we'll keep an eye on that. And then I think for the primary, I'm sorry, I should mention also at Libby that the Ojai Music Festival contacted us, and they were hoping to expand the size of the shade. If you recall, that shade's got main cables, and it's got a primary area it covers in the center of the bowl. And then if you're looking at the stage on the left-hand side, there's a smaller section that's covered. And then on the right-hand side, you know, they call it the wedding tree, and that wedding tree provides pretty good shade, but not enough. So they were hoping to see a shade on that portion as well. So we're working with the structural engineer I worked with before to try to see if what we'd have to do and try to get a ballpark cost estimate to see if Ojai Music Festival can fund that or how we'd handle it for the hopes of getting it in for the next season, for what is that, May of next year. And then I guess what I'm hoping to talk about here also was there's a slide on the canopy. You might recall that for Sarzati Park, we had budgeted in this year's capital improvement plan, and that was all approved by you folks as well as the city council, so it's in the capital improvement plan to put a canopy in that area. So so this is a shot taken from kind of the CrossFit area behind the Boyd Gym, and so you can kind of see there's the new restroom in the area here. So that there's the one barbecue area with one paved area, picnic table area, and then we've got it's kind of hard to see in the shot, but I guess this is the other barbecue back here with this big picnic area in this area. So here's a shot with what we're proposing, and this would be the canopy is shown right here. And one of the great parts of our research we just found is there's a company that makes recycled aluminum framing as well as the roofing. So that qualifies for the AB 939 fund that we have. We're always trying to use money from it. So great use of it. In fact, there's enough potential, depending on how grants would come in, we plan to request help on this from the Ojai Civic Association and also the Community Development Block Grant, the CDBG. And that depends on those coming in. But if in combination with those two hopeful grants as well as the AB 939 fund, there's a good chance that we could add a second canopy, and that's my primary question to the commission would be, you can see it over here, right? We've got the second barbecue, and then we've got this big valley oak that's right next to it. And this is what the other canopy would look like. It's a pretty good size. It seems like a smaller area, but it's not that much smaller. It's, I think
Have it
this,
drawn in there, Greg?
I'm sorry?
That's the dark
We dim the lights, maybe?
canopy right there.
Maybe if we
Maybe
hit
the lights
those
down, it
lights
would help
back
a little
there, Brian, right behind you.
Yeah.
Hit those, it might be
I
easier
see
to
it
see.
right there in the back. That would be an excellent ad.
Oh, there you
There
go.
you go. Oh, that
was
helps
it.
quite a bit, doesn't it?
That place.
You know why you can't see it is it's turned facing us.
Yeah.
And it is, it's pretty subtle because as you get further behind the trees, it's tucked in. This one's really exposed out to the open area, even though there's a couple sycamore trees here. There's a few, 1, 2, 3. It seems like there's a fourth one. I can't see it that well there. And so this one's more exposed, and it's the bigger area that's the people complain about the sun, the
Right.
heat through the summer. But even in the winter, I guess just a few weeks ago, I think there was both picnic areas were booked, and I understand they were both kind of fighting for this area over here, which had the shade of that tree. So a few weeks ago, it was a pretty hot weekend. So it seems like you'd be able to plan events throughout the wintertime, throughout the rains and so on, if you had these shelters up. And you could really count on good shade, even though that does provide decent shade, that tree. It's not great. But it is a bit more area covered. So I think most people look at it as a benefit, but I'd want to make sure we discussed it here at the commission
Yeah.
before we
I think
proceed with those
that's
grants.
an awesome thing to do.
Yeah.
I can just see the revenue. I mean, it's gonna increase the revenue out there. That's what a lot of them are going out to Soul Park for, is because it's covered.
It seems like we'd really be able to compete with that. We'd have a
Oh,
nice
yeah.
local setup here. And two sizable, I think the size of the bigger one is about 30 by 70 foot. And the smaller one was going to be, we have a little flexibility, but roughly 25 by 50 plus feet. It's not a whole lot smaller.
Right.
Of course, it'd be great for our summer program too, the
Yes.
10 weeks of summer, and we
Get
have
'em
all
outside,
those
put 'em out
kids
there
out
working.
there. We could do crafts and games
Exactly.
under those
So,
canopies.
so when do you think you'll be putting that out to bid?
We need to requesting the grants right now. We're requesting the CDBG grants as
Right.
well as the Ojai Civic Association grants. So I just want to make sure everyone was good with it before we submitted those grant applications.
Yeah.
Yes.
Oh, yeah, very good.
Okay.
And
Move forward.
the larger one that's existing that you're going to put that space over there, is that accessible? Are any of them accessible?
It-
Are we including that in part of this process? Because I know we had talked about making sure that at least one of them was accessible.
Thanks for bringing that up, because it's a key component of
ADA
the
accessible?
That's what I,
CDBG
yeah,
grant.
the ADA accessibility.
Yeah, CDBG requires, for the grants, if you want to qualify, that they have ADA and accessibility issues addressed.
So as you add the back one, will they both be ADA accessible or just the front one?
They would both be, they would, I think, have to be to
For
get
both
the
of them,
the
okay.
CDBG
I-
grant. So
I
really,
think
you know how you
that's
walk out
great.
there, there's that little circle and
That's a
then a
huge
sidewalk.
improvement. Yes, the little circle will then extend on.
A new concrete floor on the whole thing, as well as
Okay.
this one over there. that we'd
So
have
the
it to-
concrete will go in underneath both of them, and then a path will extend off of that smaller circle to both areas?
Right.
That's
I think you
great.
can kind of see it there. It looks like, I think it's right there, the circle,
Mhm.
and then it comes over here. And then we have the sidewalk, the new sidewalk going over to the restroom, and we'd have a
Well,
kind
well,
of branch coming off
okay,
there.
so they'll all converge.
Yeah.
Okay, that's great. I think that's going to be really nice.
And it might be worth mentioning, I mean, this is kind of what a lot of the canopies go for if they're straight aluminum. And you see it in carports a lot, where the underside is just aluminum, and it doesn't have the best appearance. So what we'd like to do is shoot for this approach, where you use tongue and groove wood on the bottom side, and it has a really nice appearance. So,
Right.
Very
so it's
nice.
nicely protected that way. Then all of your columns would be aluminum, and all of your framing, so you're not worried about degradation or termites or rot and so on. Then hopefully we keep them sealed up. That one oak tree hanging over at the restroom is a bit scary. Hopefully we don't have any big limbs take it and do any damage to it. But this would be the goal, is to have this tongue and groove approach like this.
I think my concern is, what's the elevation on that? 12 feet, 15 feet?
On the sides, I mean, I think their standard is 7.6, and then
6?
I think that we would want to go higher. We were talking about 9 foot, maybe clear.
Yeah, my concern is just graffiti access.
Oh, good point.
You know, the
Yeah.
posts you can
Yeah.
paint,
Yeah.
things like that, but if you've got some really nice T&G wood and some idiot gets up there, that's just a maintenance nightmare.
Right, that's a good point then. So standing on this table, we want to make sure this is high enough.
Right,
I
and
know-
and bolting those tables down so that they can't be pulled over.
Mm-hmm. And that's a concern that was brought up. I mentioned this to Planning Commission last night too, and they mentioned that the idea of, on this side, because it is south sun, even though it's pretty far overhead at this point, but there could be some need for a shade or something on this side, and to maybe incorporate some tie-offs or whatever, so people could add tarps to it. But that's true, good point with the graffiti. Yeah, we'll be careful about that.
Right.
It might even be worth, there's certain coatings you can put on which are graffiti resistant. It's a lacquer type material.
Good idea.
That, you know, the material, the chemical we use to remove graffiti is so tough, if you leave it on a little too long, like an extra 20 seconds, it just removes your whole sign. So this graffiti material, the varnish is super tough, and it can handle that material.
Okay.
That looks like a
Well,
great project,
Great project.
really exciting.
Yeah.
All right, thanks.
Good job,
Want
Greg.
to make sure everybody's good with it. Okay.
Yeah.
Very good.
Okay, thanks, Greg. Okay, discussion items.
Well, don't go away, Greg.
Some signage for Sarasota Park, Boyd Center, and Martin Gymnasium. We have a memo in here?
Yes.
Good.
You want to look?
Pass the minutes.
All right, good evening again. And yeah, it was just, when we went into this whole project for remodeling the Sarasota buildings, we were looking at that AB 939 fund, and we realized we had, for any recycled materials, we can fund it. So we did fund a few things in that project, and we're talking about the canopy, and we were talking about these signs that we found that are made out of recycled plastic. So this is a sign that we were talking about having out in front of Sarasota Park. And right now, there isn't really any sign out in the front. There's a sign that I think I put a picture in here
Yep.
up on the building, the John G. Martin
There's,
Community Gymnasium.
yes, there's one at the backstop building. It says way down by the ball fields. I think it does say Sarasota Park there, up on the
Can you go
wall.
back, can you go back to that, Greg?
Yeah,
So it's 36 by 60.
pretty big. I mean, we were talking so high, we were, thinking it'll come off the ground a bit, so it'll be about this high off the ground.
That's just the
Very-
sign is 36 by 60.
Yeah,
That's
it's a full
included.
5 foot long. It's a pretty good size sign.
And where do you see positioning that?
Yeah, I'm sorry, I thought I guess we didn't include it. I think in the packet, there was a picture we included there.
Yeah.
And it's really out front, there's I think Sophocles' crew just reworked around the backflow, there's some 2x6 framing out there that might have just been painted. And right next to that, a little closer to the parking lot, we're thinking of a V-shaped sign like this, would be 2 signs. So you can V-shaped out a little bit for better reading from the
It's a
road.
better location.
It's a nice spot, I think it's a good spot.
Yeah.
And then the question of whether, there was some question about the color. I mean, I think we had originally proposed a different color, and Steve had brought up that we probably want to be more consistent with some other signs. And so this one, even though it's a lousy picture, it's a brown background I think that one has a touch of yellow to it. It's pretty faded. And this one's a little
Dirty
different.
white.
Tan. We'll call it tan.
And it's kind of a sandblasted wood background to it. That's not possible, these recycled materials. But if you look around town, that's pretty common, like a welcome to Libby Park sign is they cover up all these letters, and then they use sandblast the wood for natural appearance in the back. And so sometimes they use these gold letters, white letters. You can see Cleft Vista has gold, and I think it's a blue trim around it. The City Hall and the Police Department have gold lettering on them. But I think that's pretty close to what we're looking for there.
Greg, what's one of these signs run, cost?
I think it was about, I'm going to have to guess. I think it was around $1,500, but that's a guess.
And it's coming from a grant fund.
It's from an AB 930 fund that we have dedicated, so it wouldn't touch the Recreation Department funding.
So I see where you have it placed here at the corner of the lower parking lot. Is there any chance of getting two and having, the upper parking lot needs some type of signage too? Can we think of something like that too, I guess?
Certainly, I think so. I don't know if you want to try this sign out first, get it in and see if you're all happy with it, and then we could go for another sign. And maybe that one we would, maybe this would be a highlight we put Boyd Center and Martin Gym. Some people thought, you could change that wording. There's I forget Martin's first name, is it?
John.
John. Martin. Okay, John Martin. Gymnasium, whatever that gets, kind of lengthy. But if that wording's okay, we could try that sign, make sure you're happy with it. Otherwise, up there, we would just call it Sarzati Park maybe, and
That's what I was going to suggest, is that the other sign could be possibly smaller and just say Sarasota Park. And are we planning to use this as a consistent signage through all the parks now? After we adopt this, or are we trying to adopt this for multiple locations as we replace signs?
I think it's, it's not, I wouldn't say a standard, but it's great to utilize this recycled plastic material and fund. But the idea of having brown with lettering that's either white or gold is pretty consistent throughout the city, like you
Okay.
see in that.
I think it'd be nice if the other sign said Sarasota Park
Right.
at that other end. I think
Yeah.
it makes sense. And then that's where the playground is and the picnic areas.
I thought we had some.
Are you
We don't
good?
have anything up there?
Are you agreeable to the wording of this sign?
Absolutely.
I guess,
Yeah.
I think Martin, Jim, and as Greg pointed out, Sean Martin Gymnasium might.
I just like the balance of the sign.
Wordy. Yeah.
The balance looks excellent. I don't,
So are you suggesting a smaller or shorter sign then for the upper parking lot that just says
Well-
Sarzati Park?
I just think City of Ojai, Sarasota Park would be enough over there.
Okay.
I think this by the gym makes perfect sense, especially with that parking lot right there, because that's where most people are accessing it.
right there too.
We could label the one, we could label it barbecue and picnic areas or something really brief.
I think from my perspective, I think it would look nice just with the City of Ojai, Sarasota Park would look good.
Almost the same thing, just
Just a
downsize it,
general
yeah.
sign.
We
Yeah.
could stack it, we could have Sarzati, and we'll work with this graphic guy that.
Yeah, it
Works
would
with
just
county.
be less,
That's a great sign though.
Yeah.
Great
So
sign.
do we have
like a
enough funding to maybe do another one up there as well?
if it's a
We do, I
smaller
think that
one.
AB 939
Okay.
fund is.
Because I was gonna say, if not, then, maybe we would talk about, having this, the two signs as a V, and I like that proposal.
Oh, moving
But I
one.
thought, maybe moving one or the other, but if we can see if we've got additional funds in that budget, then great.
I think we've had trouble using that fund in the past, but
I-
we're really
yeah, I-
aggressively looking for signage and.
Right.
We're looking at
Figuring it out.
doing signs on all the bike path, with all the crossings.
And they'll look
that
like
as
those as well, the bike path ones will
Yeah.
have a similar aesthetic.
Well, I'm sorry, the bike path, we're planning to make it look a lot like the street signs throughout the city. So it'd be, instead of a 6x6, it'd be a 4x4 post with a paddle out of plastic.
But I think Commissioner Intner has touched on something that was a concern of mine, which is I wanted to make sure that we were not unconsciously or consciously introducing yet another sign standard, not to give Greg a hard time, but the first ones that we were looking at had a green background, and I thought that, we should probably try to achieve some type of consistency there,
yeah.
at least with having the color theme, so. But yeah, I think that's what we're trying to achieve going forward here, is that there is some consistency in signage, and already I think there is a pretty established theme in town. It does vary, as Greg has, and thank you for the photo survey. But yeah, it's the basic theme, is a brown
Right.
background with some type of light colored lettering, so, I'd hate to start introducing too many other variables to
Well,
it.
that's, and that what we're talking about right now, though, is,
Yes,
okay.
we are, yeah.
So the question is, does this have to be approved by anybody?
No, I think that if you're happy with it, we'll proceed with the purchase. I wanted to make sure that the commission had a chance to look at it, and if there was a concern, that we addressed it.
Okay.
You did bring up, though, demarcating each of the picnic areas. That is an interesting question, and if there is money for that, consistent signage there would be nice.
Oh, that would label them as, it's called picnic area,
Picnic
A or
area
B,
1 and
yeah,
area
1 and
2.
2.
right?
Yeah.
I think there's a sign out there, but
There are signs.
whether we've repainted them, I can't remember.
We
How do you
we
char-
have.
Yeah.
but it was
How do
a-
you
it was-
charge for the picnic areas right now? Wouldn't you have a designated area? Do we
Yeah,
charge
we
for?
have 2 designated areas.
Shouldn't there
that
be
are-
some signage up there anyway, so that I know if I paid for one, I'm getting one, not
I
two?
think there already is, isn't it?
Well, there's signs up there, they just say area 1.
Right.
Area 2, they don't say reserved, or
Okay.
there's no other wording except for that they're 2 separate areas.
The thought was if we are,
You
if
could
we have the
add
money
to-
and we are able to do it, it would be lovely to have the V-shaped sign down there, and then an entry one there, and then possibly something small but similar of the same style of signage near there. Because I think one of the things when we did our walkthrough and we were looking at it was trying to pull together a consistent aesthetic through the park and through the area. And signage is a really nice way to do that, so that as you walk in and you see the consistent signage, I just think it would look nice
I
as we're upgrading the picnic area to try and look to how to pull it together.
I think we should look at that as we go, when we get ready for the second portion, which is
Right.
putting up the canopies. We look at it then.
Yeah.
And maybe we can get a donator or something, so.
Okay. And we're working with this company a lot. I mean, I wanted to show you the other thing was the wayfinding signs. At each one of the bike crossings, like I was saying, we're going to have a sign out there just like the street signs. And then we're looking at a few wayfinding signs. And we're trying to model it and use this recycled products companies we've got here. So this is a sign we came up with. It is pretty similar to, you know, the one, well, it's this concept that you see right there, you know, right here. I think there's one in downtown
More decorative.
in the arcade area that looks a lot more like this that I guess we don't have in that shot. It might be on the recap of sheets you see there. But anyways, it's got,
Nice.
so you can get fancier with these. It might not be appropriate over at Sarzati, but anyways, we're thinking of this on the bike path, and we're going to have them in certain locations pointing to things like this, wayfinding. So that, you know, there's some flexibility on it, but it's, I don't know. We're finding out how far they can go with this stuff.
I guess my concern was is the signs that we have in some areas look like the Forest Service sign when you go up Highway 33, it says Pratt Trail or something, you know, they're all wood, and some of them are sandblasted and stuff, but I think that as this type of signage here is much better. I just, something about that single block letters and brown.
I think,
Well-
what I think is nice about it is it's complementary.
Yes.
I think they will work well together, and I think that's what you're after, is not changing what we have, which is traditionally Ojai, but working on signage that'll work with that.
Well, I see it cost-effective, and it does enhance
Yeah,
our facilities, so.
And if
Good.
this works, this
Good
is
job.
probably a good one to bring up to you, that this technically was within the park. It'd be one of the wayfinding signs that wouldn't be at a street crossing. We would put this at the, you know, where the path crosses from Upper to Lower Libby. So that's where this sign would be proposed. So it's a good question, I guess. Does that sign look appropriate? And if that does, I think our trick is to get these things affixed to a sign in a way that they aren't vandalized, right? That's the next
right.
challenge. Graffiti or breakage.
Well, I like the others. Are you giving us a choice?
Well,
Are you saying?
I think
Because-
my question would be, do you approve of these two signs? As I put it now, I was actually thinking the one. But do you approve of this sign? Should we go ahead and purchase?
Yes.
Yes.
I think that looks really good.
Yeah.
Do we need to make a motion, or are we good?
Right.
And then the second sign would actually be inside the park limits to this wayfinding sign, and we can
Great.
go ahead and do this as well.
Also looks good.
Sold.
Move on. Good job.
Yeah, I don't think we need a motion. We're
No,
really just
we're
looking
good.
Do we need a
for
motion?
feedback and, you know, if there was a lot of, you know, gnashing of teeth and stamping of feet, then maybe we would go back.
I
and-
just appreciate the fact that we're being asked.
Yes.
Well, how about this? Is there anyone in the gallery who'd like to say something or comment on it? We're here. Okay, great. Okay, Greg.
Thank you, appreciate it.
Is that all we need Greg for? Is Greg in?
I
is
think
Greg
so.
on the-
I think we've exhausted Greg for the night.
All right, Greg. you're
Or
free
Greg's
to go.
exhausted us, I'm not sure. what
Thank
it-
you.
Thank you, Greg.
Thank you, Greg.
Thanks.
Okay, so appointment of an ad hoc committee to develop a draft policy on the naming of city facilities and memorials. Wow, we're
Do
heading
you
that
need
way,
that to
huh?
happen right now?
I think we were.
It's at the commission's pleasure.
Well, is there anybody here who might want to serve who isn't here tonight?
Don't know.
Well, let's nominate them since they're not here.
Well, I'll take a seat on one of them. I don't have a problem with that. I just didn't realize that we were doing this. I thought I thought that something had already been developed or it was already taken care of, but
I thought we did.
I
I
guess we
think we
didn't.
responded to it, and some research was done, and then it came back to us, and then
That's
correct me if
correct.
I'm wrong, but then council reacted to something that had been developed that we looked at, and we pushed it off, and then I think it's come back to us.
Pretty much. The commission had forwarded a recommendation to the council that they wanted the council to give some direction to staff or whatnot to develop a policy for naming and memorials. And the city council received the report and said, you know, I think that's a very good idea. And I think the most qualified people to develop such a policy for us to consider would be the members of the Parks Commission and staff. So at that point, it was, that's a great idea. You guys go work on that and bring us something to consider.
So this is for citywide though, not just for,
Yes.
not just
We
for
would be
ours.
looking at something potentially for
Okay.
citywide, right, in the draft policy, correct.
And some of the research has been done, because we have
Yes, it
looked at
has.
the policies that you've collected from other cities. So this is just forming the committee to take a closer look.
It's
That's
two
correct,
members. We
Commissioner.
don't have
Two
anyone here
members.
that wants to throw a little time into it. I just need one other person. Come
I'll
on,
do it.
going.
I'll do it. I'm certainly not qualified, but I'd like to be there.
Great.
Or if
Yeah,
you'd
there you
rather have
go.
another person though that have a little more insight into this sort of thing.
Okay, I think we've got two.
Well, we'll have the young and the old of the qualifying of it, so don't worry about it, Austin.
All right.
That's right.
Okay, so there's your committee.
Okay.
Now,
Do we need a motion for that, or we're good?
It might be good.
okay, so we need a motion to appoint
Jerry
Randy
Haney?
Haney.
Randy Haney and Austin Beckert to the ad hoc committee to develop a draft policy on the naming of city facilities and memorials in the city of Ojai.
I will second that.
Okay.
All in favor?
Aye.
Wait, I can't see.
And obviously, there's no opposed. Okay. So now, Austin, young Austin, we need to set a date to meet and talk.
Will do.
No, and that's gonna be with staff, right?
Yes, that would be a meeting with staff, right?
So
So
staff will set the
Staff
meeting.
will set a date,
we will
yes.
set that
Chair
up,
Haney,
yes.
though, will then tell Commissioner Becker.
There we go. See? We just resolved issues left and right here. Okay, continue and review of the duties of the Parks and Recreation Commission. Recommendation, in order to move forward with establishing amended duties and responsibilities of the Parks and Recreation Commission, give feedback and recommendations on Article 1 of the Parks and Recreation Commission.
So, I thought we would start a little slow on this, and I have just a refresher handout here. This is, and it should not be new material to the commission. This is the copy of the municipal code, which outlines the duties of the department and the Park and Recreation Commission. So I thought we could just kind of start by going through, maybe perhaps some of the, more benign sections or areas, and maybe try to eliminate areas that we, don't feel that we, need to get too far into discussion or debate on. And then maybe we can save some of the weightier ones towards the end so that we kind of have, I guess, a process that we've figured out, in terms of how we want to work through this. So with no further ado, a couple things that I wanted to point out here. Again, this is, straight out of the city's municipal code. This represents the ordinances that have been adopted in the past that are currently in effect, that speak to the department administration as well as the duties and responsibilities of the Parks and Recreation Commission. One thing that I just wanted to allow you to hopefully just line out at this point from anything that we need to consider or take a look at, and it's on the last page. So I'm really starting at the end and working forward. But if you, and that's page 26 there. And I do have some copies of this if anybody in the audience would like to follow along. Sorry. Oh, please, I'm sorry. Thank you. If anybody else would like one. And that is this section on page 26, which is the Article 3, the recruitment and training of peace officers. I did check with the city manager and the city attorney. This really probably should not even be in this section, but it's really a moot, and doesn't really have any impact on the Recreation Commission. So I would just ask that we ignore this. It's not a problem that it's in there, and why it actually is in this section. The city attorney and I both agree that it should probably be somewhere else in the code. So I think we can just kind of hopefully agree that that's not anything that we need to look into. So if we start back then at the beginning,
Page 24.
back at page 24, the first area that we should probably just go over is the membership. Staff does not see any particular concerns or issues with the current membership, both in terms of how it's represented or the number thereof. So I don't know if there are any thoughts or issues that any of the commissioners have with this section, but we can talk about that at this time.
I just have a simple question. The 3-member and the 4-member and the youth is in that 7.
That's
Yet
correct.
the youth is citywide, correct? The youth could be outside the city, it could be, am I correct on that?
Well, he has to be within the
It
school
says Ojai
district.
Valley, not city. So that would,
Well-
does that
that's-
individual
that's-
count as someone outside? So he's in that 3-member grouping? Is that what I'm assuming?
It's both. It basically, you've got to have at least 4 members of the commission, or another way to put it, no more than 3, just to use language in here, no more than 3 members of the commission shall be non-residents of the city. So if that high school member is a non-resident, that means you could only have 2 other members who are non-resident. And if the high school member was a resident, then you would just need at least a minimum of 3 others that lived in the city. So I think it just counts towards that total. That's always been our understanding of that.
Okay.
And I think the reference to within the Ojai Valley is just reference to the schools they attend.
The schools only.
Right.
That's correct, right.
It doesn't have to be a Nordoff, it could be somebody from Ojai Valley School, correct?
Right. Or in Austin's, for Austin, he's in the Ventura County School
Yep.
system to a degree.
What is it?
But he's a youth in the Ojai Valley.
He's a youth in the Ojai Valley, but he actually attends school. Are you at El Camino?
Yeah.
At El Camino.
I think I brought this up last time and
Yep.
was kind of confused on that. But yeah, I guess I am an
So
exception.
it says here, it says here that the youth member shall be a full-time high school junior or senior from a high school located within the Ojai Valley. So, do we want to strike that? And just make it a youth member?
I believe it,
Ojai Valley?
I personally think it should just be a residency issue, because I've gone to schools in Ojai and I have plenty of friends in Ojai. I mean, I'm part of the
You
community.
play sports in Ojai.
Yeah, I played sports in Ojai, and I use the gym I've used the gym at Gary's for a couple of years. I'm, a citizen, I'm an active citizen here, and I don't think it's a question of whether I go to school here or not.
I say we just, if we can,
just-
strike out the located within the Ojai Valley.
Well, at this point, again, what we're doing is just
We're just
really
looking.
just talking and going through it, and then ultimately what we'll, at some point, the commission will be, will want to forward some type of recommendation to the city council, and then it
Okay.
will be up to the council to consider what the commission is proposing. Not to dwell on this too much or concern Commissioner Becker here, but I'm actually looking for a potential out here. Even though it says within the Ojai Valley, are you registered through the district and then to that high school? I'm just, maybe it's a nuance that doesn't matter here or we need to get into, but.
I don't really remember that, but I do remember having to deal with district switching. I'm not sure if it was
You gotta
some
I
form
see.
of-
But I think
Yeah.
your point is well taken.
Yeah.
I think, without speaking for the commission or the county, I think what we're looking for is we're looking for a youth who is connected to the valley.
Yes and
So-
no. Yes and no. Like I said, I'm vacillating on this.
Okay.
I understand the reason to have a student or a youth, from the valley. I understand that, versus just a youth. Someone that's participating in our schools, whether it's Villanova, Thatcher, any of the private or the public. I understand that person is a part of this community. Austin's a part of this community because he lives here and he's been here for a number of years. so I understand his point, but this point was, I think, was trying to be inclusive to the students or to the youth in this valley that actually utilize our facilities and utilize the services that we provide. That's all I'm trying to say is why it's so distinct versus
I
gray.
can see that.
Maybe it should be an or than a student or a youth, not just a only student.
Well, I think in your argument was the fact that you said that you're a resident here. So if you were a resident here, then you would be, you wouldn't be the youth, the appointed youth commissioner. You would be an appointed commissioner. See the difference? So you can't be both ways.
Yeah.
So, do I need to turn this up? Oh, I'm not loud enough?
Oh, jeez.
Wow. Okay, so,
Careful what you wish for.
I know. So that's all I'm trying to say. So, you know, I mean, it's just something that I think that we need to look at personally and then come back and
Okay.
discuss that again.
Well, and again, this is not our only chance to talk about this. We're kind of trying to break this up into pieces. Obviously, we're missing a couple members of the commission tonight. So we can record your comments and make a note that we'll kind of come back and revisit this again.
Great.
Okay.
Okay.
Anything else on that section on membership?
No.
Everyone fine with the 4 and the 3 and,
Yeah.
Yeah.
okay. Nobody wants to go to 9 or 11 members?
I don't think there are enough chairs.
Just kidding, no, just kidding. Into the term area, I guess, you know, this is fairly standard in terms of the other city commissions. You know, there's a 2-year term. The youth member is appointed for a term of 1 year and then can be appointed again for a second term. So there is a limit there. And then it also points out that members hold office until their successors have been appointed and qualified, which is nice if we be able to keep form and whatnot if we are going through that process of trying to appoint a new member. Page 23 does not apply to that, so you can just kind of cross that out. Sorry, I didn't mean to copy that. But is there any comments or questions or thoughts on the terms before we leave 2.4-103?
No, I don't see any changes that needed to be changed.
No, I'm
Okay.
good.
So one thing just to point out is, you know, the current youth member, for the way that I understand this, is they can be appointed for 1 year and they can be appointed for a second term. What I then extrapolate from that is that means they're termed out after 2 years.
Because they graduate, correct?
Well, that's a good point.
Yeah,
They're,
they
it's limited
graduate,
to
yeah.
junior, senior, unless they keep repeating their junior. Okay.
Yeah, I don't see any changes there. I don't.
Okay, and the rest of the section just talks about the terms, you know, being staggered and whatnot,
Right.
and of course, that's all there to, you know, ease with the transition.
Now, powers and duties is where you're gonna
Yeah.
run into,
Well, we've already had some discussion on this.
yeah.
Right, yeah, and like I said, I kind of trying to put this into bite-sized pieces. And I think at this point, I would ask that we bring up the powers and the duties at a future meeting when we've got
when
hopefully
everyone's
the
here, I
full
think,
commission.
I totally agree with that.
Kind of
Just,
a bit of a
no,
baby
we-
step process
We had-
here.
She had
We may
some-
dedicate a
Sunday,
whole
yes.
We
session
could,
just to this.
we might, right, and we need a little more analysis on that
Right.
before we get into that discussion, so.
I mean, I read line item A, and it says to act in an advisory capacity to the council on all matters pertaining to public parks and recreation. and yet there's parks and there's facilities that are taken out of our jurisdiction for whatever reason. So it's always interesting, to me, when I read into that, it's, Libby Bowl, for instance. We don't advise or have any say on Libby Bowl, so, but it's a park, and it's one of our facilities.
No, but I do think we should table it.
Yeah.
I think
Okay.
I think we should have the whole commission here. I know that we started this discussion previously when we,
Yeah, this was
Move
about
this
as far as
forward.
I was hoping to get through tonight.
I mean, yeah,
Okay, so we're all in agreement, though, on the first couple things?
Starting on baby
Yeah.
steps
Talk
on that one, so, figured.
Members and terms, we're 100% pretty much agreement on right now, and then powers and duties, we actually need to set up a
Right, so we'll, and like I said.
couple
we'll-
hours for it.
Yeah,
mean,
we'll set aside some
I
time
think
to
we could get
specifically
through
talk about that.
officers and committees tonight if you'd like to.
It's fine by me if you want to give any comments on that. So that's section, you're just skipping past the powers and duties at
Right.
the bottom of the page there. And again, pretty standard, elect from its members a chairman and a vice chairman, and may appoint a secretary who need not be a member of the commission. And the commission also shall create such committees as it deems necessary for the performance of its duties,
So that one's okay.
and may delegate to such committees such investigation studies and other administrative duties it deems advisable.
I think it's fine.
Great,
I think it's fine.
Okay.
Yeah, and is that, and then,
that's it.
yeah,
So they're the only one we're really gonna be talking on is 104. Section 2.
yeah. That's all we've tabled for the,
Yeah.
to move forward is just that section.
And I'll just bring up, in the last meeting, you talked about wanting to possibly form a mission statement. I don't know if that's still something you want to consider.
I thought
as
we
a-
started that way back. I thought we worked on that.
Well, I think what we did is we didn't appoint a committee, and that's something that we should do if we're going to do something like that. I think we had talked about it in general, but I don't think it went any further than that.
Right.
I think that was under the old
Yes,
director.
it was.
Right,
So that was the one of that. I suggest we do start a committee for that to get it
Right.
taken care of.
I mean, you have a mission statement right now.
We have a park and rec mission statement, but
Right.
not a
Commission.
separate
Not a commission.
commission.
Mission statement, right. Okay.
All right.
Okay,
Well, we can
Steve?
include that when we come back and talk about the
right.
code further.
I'm
Okay.
putting it on this. Okay. So before, are we done with this? So, do we need to say, do we need to make any motions or do anything regarding the things that we do agree with, or? do
No,
we
I think
want
at this point,
everyone here to have
we're
a,
really kind of working through this, and
Okay.
this is not the last bite at the apple, so to speak. We're trying to break this down, but, as we work through this, if there are, particular word changes or suggestions, we will bring that to the commission and formally ask for some type of a motion prior to taking anything to the city council, certainly. So, at this point, we're just looking for direction and feedback and continue through the process.
Okay. Are there any public comments? Anyone want to say anything in regards to this?
I had a comment regarding the section with Austin being the junior member. While I hear he's involved.
Your name,
Why don't you,
please.
can you come to the podium and state your name? And just,
My name is Brittany Dutter.
I'm sorry?
Brittany Dutter.
Dutter.
While I appreciate you're still involved in the community and don't go to school here, I'm wondering what happens in the future if somebody does live here and chooses to go to school in Ventura and participate in those activities and in their city down there. I was just trying to look at it a different way.
Right.
For a future person so that was my only point, that,
well, it's a good point.
yeah.
So,
So,
yeah, it's another set of eyes looking at it. It's again, first of all, getting a youth member is sometimes difficult at best, so having Austin here, we're grateful.
right, of course,
So,
yes.
we're not trying to boot you out of here, Austin. We're
No,
just
no,
trying
of
to
course
figure it
not.
out.
Yeah,
Hope not.
that was my only
Okay.
observation. Okay,
All right,
thank you.
Okay, so we're gonna chair this and move this to another date, another time?
Yep, and we'll discuss our next meeting date a little bit later on in the agenda.
Okay. Okay, recreation staff reports are,
I'm ready.
It's all yours, Sophocles.
Yeah, okay. Before I get into talking about all the wonderful things that are happening at the Recreation Department directly, I'll put in a plug for the Nordhoff football team, who won their semifinal game against Bishop Diego. Yep, and the very hotly contested, tightly contested 27-24 win. I happened to be at that game, and it was one of the more exciting high school football games I've seen in a long time. So the final game, so we've earned the right for home field advantage against El Segundo. That'll be Saturday night at 7 p.m. So
It's not Friday night.
it is not Friday night. It's Saturday night.
Rain.
Randy will hopefully correct me if I give some misinformation, but it's Saturday
24
night.
to 21 was the score last week.
Oh, it was 24-21. Okay. It was a
21.
Randy, I'm sorry.
I don't have any more nails.
It was a 3-point win either way, right? Yeah, it was right down to the final seconds of the game. So the championship game, it could be a repeat, but the championship game will be at Nordhoff Stadium again Saturday, 7 p.m. I already pre-purchased my tickets, and if you want to go to Nordhoff High School between 10 and 3 o'clock tomorrow, you can pre-purchase your ticket because I
Whereabouts
have.
at Nordhoff High School?
It's at the ASB
ASB
office, which is right in the main office,
Right.
which I got at lunch today, because I think it's gonna be sold out. A
Probably
standing
already
room
is.
only event.
Yeah, and you're
just don't have-
buying a ticket
Yeah.
to stand.
Yeah, yes.
I was gonna say, you
The
can stand
stadium,
all
I think,
around that.
I think our capacity is about 3,000, up to 3,000. I know we're bringing in bleachers.
Oh, okay.
Oh, you are.
Yeah.
It's kind of like the bowl. You
It was
Speak
quite
for the
a,
Other people?
Pardon me?
find a spot.
Well, we're the only school in Ventura County that's playing.
Wow.
All the other schools are out.
Yeah,
So-
And home team advantage, or home field advantage, that's even
Yeah.
better.
Right.
well, again, you can go and pre-purchase your tickets, and there were actually a couple of people there purchasing tickets when I was there purchasing mine. So I do think it will be a pretty full stadium. So, saying something about anything else, Randy, that I might have missed about the big game
No,
on
I'm gonna
Saturday?
stay, I'm gonna stay quiet on it because I'm
Okay.
coaching in it, but we plan on kicking a lot of rear ends out there, so.
All right, excellent.
Okay.
Well, and since I brought up the Nordhoff football team, my daughter who graduated last year and was part of the dance program, and I wasn't going to mention that I'm a Dancing with the Stars, former champion of Ojai Dancing with the Stars, so I won't mention it now. But the dance program has a concert on December 19th in the Nordhoff cafeteria at 7 p.m. So that is they have a winter concert and a spring concert, so let's hear it for the dance program at Nordhoff, and that'll be, again, on December 19th, 7 p.m., Nordhoff cafeteria, and they have a great dance program, too, at Nordhoff.
Great.
Lots of participants. So on to recreation department stuff. Our youth basketball program will begin this Saturday. I think I mentioned in the last meeting that it was going to happen on November 30th, but we realized that was Thanksgiving weekend, and we got a lot of feedback from our participants saying that's a tough weekend to do a player rating, so we bumped it to this coming weekend. So it'll be this Saturday, all day
And I
at
think
the
you've gotten quite a few more
Sarasota.
signups.
Yes. We're expecting about 250 participants in the program, which was the number we had, roughly the number we had last year. So it's a great program. Flag football finished and went very well, and we're expecting, as I mentioned in the last meeting, bigger numbers in that football program next year. And it doesn't hurt to have a successful high school program to get the community excited about that sport. A couple of our newer programs, our ballet class, kung fu class, which ballet we've had a couple of months in, and we're getting a lot of positive feedback about the instructor and about the fact that we have another offering. We have really just one other ballet option in the Valley, and we've provided another, and parents are very appreciative of that. So, and we're happy with the program and the instruction that they're providing. the department. And like I said, Kung Fu is another solid program that we have at the rec. And then another program that's an ongoing is the Quick Start Tennis Program that we've been offering in the schools, and that's been funded by the Best Tennis Town Award. If you remember, several years ago, we got that $50,000 award, second place in Best Tennis Town. So the schools that have already been visited are Sunset School, Miners Oaks, Montessori. We're currently at Miramonte, and in the new year, we'll be at Topa Topa Elementary. So they get a 4-week, a 1 month, 2 days a week exposure to tennis. And that's when I say they, it's 3rd through 5th grade grades that they focus on in that
You
program.
might need more than a month at Topa.
Yeah, yeah. Some of those bigger schools are tough to squeeze in all those
90
age
fifth graders.
groups. Yeah.
90.
So that's all on the updates of programming. If you guys have any questions about just programming in general, we have. I wanted to mention when we get to the activity guide, we have 8 new classes that we're going to be offering in the next activity guide,
Really
which brings
exciting.
us to the next 9B on the agenda is our activity guide. So
Hey, Sophocles, just a quick question on programming. You're doing dodgeball what night now?
we are still on Friday nights.
You're still on Friday night?
Yes.
Okay,
And
great.
it's, we have to compete against some pretty tough competition on some of those Friday nights. And we started out gangbusters on it. I think the last Friday we had dodgeball, it was 13 participants. It was much higher. I think we were up at 40 when it first started, and it kind of goes in waves, the numbers of attendees.
Seems our marketing strategy should be to try to get the people at the football game to tell them when they're looking for something to do next Friday and there's no more football to head over to the rec department for dodgeball.
Good idea.
Can't you plug the crowd
I was
there?
gonna say,
was
why
like,
not
I'd be
Hey,
doing pizza
5,000
and
people?
dodgeball next Friday personally, but
yeah.
So yes, dodgeball is still happening. Not as hot as it was when it first started, but we're going to offer it again in the next activity guide, which is due to be out December 9th. So, and again, we have new programs that are going to be offered in that, and those activity guides, as always, get delivered to you, all the public and private elementary schools in the valley. And so some of the things we're doing to promotionally, you have right in front of you are those reusable shopping bags. And you'll also see the postcard that I've also handed out to you. Yes, that postcard will go to just over 8,100 homes in the valley. And if they just mention that they've received this postcard, they can come in to the rec department and receive one of those reusable bags. Of course, we'll give them out even if they don't mention it, but we're trying to track to see how many people actually look at that postcard, get the postcard, and then we'll come in and mention it and get their cool recreation bag.
You have 8,100 of them?
We do not have, there is a limited supply. We actually have 250, less the ones I brought in tonight.
It's an old
Out the
marketing
door to get
strategy. Commissioner Becker, always leave them wanting more. So
Limited
Maybe
while
next
supplies last.
That's right.
Yes.
come down now.
Asaf, I've got a question.
Yeah.
You just said something about that you're putting out guides only to the elementary schools.
That's right.
Why don't we put some out at the junior highs and the private schools?
They are at the private schools, aren't they?
Well, the private high schools?
Yeah.
There's a cost factor involved, and we find that it's a huge number, whatever Nordoff's enrollment is, and we find that they're just not, we feel like they probably get tossed, is our sense.
That the school tosses?
Not the school, but the students won't.
these cards.
No, not the cards, the activity guides.
The full guide.
That they just won't,
Well,
I don't think there's a benefit. Oh, yeah, we could bring a stack of them. We were just bringing a stack to the front office, and
Yeah.
then they put them in the library. Yeah, that certainly can be done.
Okay.
Not to every student.
No,
but-
not.
Oh, were you not,
I just-
you weren't
just like
thinking to every
something- no,
student?
Just something in there that they can look at.
Absolutely, yeah, we should bring a stack of guides to the front offices of
Okay.
Matilaha and Nordhoff. I see no problem with that, but.
Well, and I think, long ago, I think we talked about long-term trying to, the postcard is great, but also gearing them toward different age groups. I don't think we're there yet, but we talked about in the marketing plan, putting together, say, a postcard that is a junior high postcard, because you know what they're looking for, you know what's
Exactly.
available to them, and then doing a bullet point thing, and then possibly a high school one. I think
Yeah.
we did talk about that a while back. and
Yes,
I
we
think
did.
it's-
And-
It's yeah, that's a great point.
But you're right, that was exactly what popped into my mind too, when we started talking about that, would be, yeah, if we're gonna do an outreach like that, we should try to do something that, well, and it's, you know, it's like this. You've gotta have programmings
Right.
and classes and things that you know, that you wanna offer to them, that you have reasonable expectation that they're gonna have interest in, so.
Right.
And I don't think we have really done the development on that. I mean, we've talked here, you know, a few times about, you know, we do a pretty good job of catering to the elementary school kids. How do we do more again to try to
Right.
That's
pull
what the
in those
goal, I
middle
think, is
school
to
and high
everybody.
school
We-
folks?
Well,
So,
and I think.
so yeah, I think it's got to be both. You got to develop something that they're going to be interested in,
Exactly,
and then you got to
yeah.
market it to
Which is
them
like
in a way
dodgeball.
that does that. So.
Or
Well-
drop-in
well,
sports
I'll-
are a better gear toward certain of the older age groups, but yeah.
Well, if you may or may not recall, I'm not 100% recalling the previous postcard, but it had 4 different photos on the front. One was of the Ojai Day,
Yep.
it was a dodgeball photo, and there might have been a CrossFit photo on the front of it. I can't remember, but I do think
Flag
it's.
football.
Yeah, it was flag football. You're absolutely right, some teen activity, because we have teenagers in the gymnastics program, in tennis, and maybe some more teenage adult, the CrossFit adult programs, the Tai Chi, the dance. some
And
of the
maybe it's
dance
not a
class.
postcard, maybe it's a single sheet of paper, maybe it's the one sheet. I mean, it doesn't have to be a
Well,
postcard.
even if
but-
we take the programs that we have right now, say guitar, and gear it towards where the high school kids or junior high kids can go junior high, high school, and not be in there with elementary kids. Something that we can just
Right.
try out just to see if it'll work.
To target those groups.
Yeah, target them, so.
Yeah, yes, we definitely we nail the youth programs, but we do have people participating who are teen and older, and we need to, that could be the next postcard.
I
is
tell you,
that-
the other thing that I thought was successful, you might think differently, but during their football this year, and I saw Commissioner Ford out there walking around, we were talking to some of the people, very, very satisfied with it. They want it to go longer, though.
Yeah.
They want a longer season
Longer
out
season.
there and stuff. So I don't know if that can be a goal for next year, but I think that what you guys have done with these is you're bringing these things back and introducing them back into the Ojai. It was like they didn't know about it, and then all of a sudden, everybody found out about it one weekend. And like everybody wanted to flood in, and, we didn't have enough to start out with, then we ended up getting a lot and stuff. But I think you heard the same comments I did that a couple times, so.
Yeah, well, in reference to flag football, for sure. I mean, I think it landed on about 80 participants in the end, but it could, without being too optimistic, it could easily double. Easily. But, well, time will tell, but we're happy to have that program back, and it was very successful.
I think we had talked about the youth in Ojai that do not drive. So that's that 12-year-old to 15-and-a-half-year-old age
Yes.
group is what we should be targeting, because they're still relying on their parents to get them from A to B. If I'm a parent, there's no safer place to me than to take them to a recreation facility.
It's true.
So, okay.
Yeah,
Well, and I
and-
think part of, I just am wondering too, if one of the ways to get at that is also drop-in. Like the dodgeball is a drop-in. It's a consistent, it's there if you want it, and maybe we can come up with some other things that could be drop-in. I know it's not going right now, but like the Frisbee, the ultimate Frisbee could be, that was a drop-in, and that was when you had someone to run it, and there were successful numbers for part of it, but maybe some other sports like that.
Yeah, we are introducing, by the way, and that will be in the new activity guide. So it's more than just classes, but also drop-in volleyball.
Right.
We're doing, and drop-in, we have an adult drop-in basketball, but we're going to do a youth drop-in
So
basketball.
you've got a postcard right there. I mean, you have
Yeah.
at least 5 items
So-
that you could,
Yeah, and that's on volunteer too.
Which is wonderful.
We've got volunteers doing the youth basketball, and then and it'll be all like the other drop-in, it'll be a $3 fee for the drop-in,
and
for those
we haven't done
programs.
it in years, but years ago, they would sometimes run clinics associated with the drop-ins. It's been a really long time, and I'm
Yeah,
talking
it's
a
probably-
long, long time ago. But it would be something to look at that would be nice for kids who might not be comfortable to come to a drop-in, but you develop some skills with kids who might, and anyway, so a one-time clinic or a quarterly clinic, because I know with volleyball, you could definitely do that.
Yeah.
Frisbee, you could definitely do that. Dodgeball doesn't need a clinic.
Okay.
Yeah,
But,
but
okay, so-
you're absolutely right. In
So you've
some
got
of
all
these,
kinds of
some
good
of these
things.
volunteers that we have, and I know even in reference to volleyball, could
Do you run a clinic?
just run a one or a couple times a year run.
I think it'd be great.
Yeah.
And the basketball too.
Well,
Yes.
and during your flag football this year, you had a lot of Nordoff football players that came out and coached, I understand. So, yeah.
Ex and current ex
Yeah,
players and
yeah.
current players.
Yeah,
Yeah.
so
And
that was really good to see. Youth coming out to help and give back, so.
Right.
Yeah.
Makes sense.
Well, that's it on the, direct recreation department programming and updates. So the next, the capital improvement committee, Steve, do you want to touch on that, the playground and shade structure? I think it's just a point on there to say that committee should get together again and move forward with a plan.
Yes, and right now it's just holidays and schedules and that type of thing. So, but I will be contacting you very soon. We want to get that going and keep that moving so that, and again, the latest plan, would be to try to utilize that money starting next fiscal year. We're still not sure if we're going to have it available for this fiscal year. Again, it's a matter of cash flow and timing and whatnot. But we want to make sure that we go through the process right. And I think one of the first thing we'll do is we'll schedule a meeting and we can meet and talk about this at the committee level. But we may want to do some field trips and survey and get some information and even before we start looking at
Was this the
vendors.
shade structure for Libby?
No,
No,
this was the Sarzodi
this is
shade
for.
structure. Oh, you're talking about the
It's
Libby.
the Libby
Libby
Park,
Bowl
it's the
thing.
Libby, the Libby Park playground shade structure.
Oh, okay.
The
Right.
by,
Yeah,
through
this-
the.
Because I thought that was being generated by
Rotary.
the, Rotary West or.
It is.
It is,
And-
but we still need to coordinate the plans and the design
For
and
the
all
playground
that. And,
replacement.
and again, the thought was to try to do that project before they,
They haven't backed out or anything
Oh,
yet?
no.
No, not at all.
They're interested in what our plans
Right.
are when we're going to replace that equipment and,
To collaborate,
yes, to
so that
collaborate.
both the funds are all spent and
Well, let's remember that the people driving it, their grandchildren aren't getting any younger.
correct.
So let's not drag our feet too
Yeah.
long on this one.
So I bring this up really humorously. The conversation that we last had with Rotaries, they kind of said, well, where are you guys with your project? And we said, well, it's, we're not quite sure what, budget figures and whatnot. So, if not this fiscal year, we're thinking it would be the next fiscal year, but we want to take all the steps and get everything ready so that, when suddenly the money does come available, we're not having to scramble around for 6 months or whatnot. And they said, oh, well, I said, well, kind of where are you guys? Well, we're not quite there yet, and we're still, so I think both sides are kind of looking at the other kind of saying, well, are you guys ready to go? And and I don't think either side is quite ready to go as of yet, but everyone's still working towards it. So, and I have not gotten any, I mean, they're not deviating from their
No,
plans
not at all.
and
No, absolutely not.
we-
They are full on with definitely wanting a shade structure above whatever
right.
replaces the current structure, playground structure that's there. But I like Steve's idea about the field trips and checking out other facilities, because it will be no problem to get vendors to come in and present
Right.
to us what they have to offer. So, but I do think we should probably do that, some research of our own prior to getting these vendors, so we know what we want
Right.
before we invite them in.
And we'll talk about this a little bit more at the committee, but I personally think we should probably try to do a little bit, some community outreach too. And there's a variety of different ways that we could do that, but so that it's not just us trying to
Absolutely.
come up with some recommendations to then bring to the commission. I think it's good if we can involve the community in the process too.
Yeah,
Yes,
well,
because Miners Oaks, they built their structure not too long ago, and they had quite a few parents involved with laying the, I don't know, I don't remember exactly what the material was that they spread for the flooring of it or the ground cover, but they had a lot of parent involvement. in
Miners
that.
Oak School?
Miners Oaks,
Mm-hmm.
yeah. I actually like their structure, and, you know, we can invite them to see what their process was
Well,
in getting that structure.
and with the skate park, we did design charrette. I mean, there's possibilities, there's different ways to do outreach, once we've done more homework in the committee.
My concern is this turns into the 10-year skate park. I'm being honest.
Yeah.
You know, this was brought up over, what, 2 years ago?
The playground?
The shade structure.
Oh, the shade
Oh.
structure.
And so here we are 2 years later.
Well,
So I'm just trying to say, I'm going to be an advocate for the shade structure, contrary to getting the play equipment repaired underneath it. We have a group of people that are actively and willing to put that structure up and to fundraise for it and do it. And I would hate for us to be the impediment into getting something done.
And I don't think we are at this point.
Okay? I'm just bringing that up. The
If that's
clock
not-
is
My
ticking.
understanding is
No,
we are not
not-
the impediment at this
No,
time.
we're not. Their funding isn't all secured and ready to go yet either, so.
We hear the words of the chair, and they will not be forgotten.
What is the percentage again? Remind me, how much are we putting in? The city, or is this all?
Zero.
On
Zero.
the shade
Zero on the shade
structure?
Yeah.
None.
Yeah, it doesn't get much better than that.
Yeah, no.
Okay, so really, it's
It's
just
the playground,
playground.
Yes.
how those work together and the
Right.
decisions that have to be made to, you know, create a new design and.
Okay, what's next?
Oh.
Again, we staff feel that it would not be wise to put a playground shade, a straight shade structure up over, an existing
Adequate
aging
equipment.
facility that is, either now or in the near future going to need to be replaced. And then you run into issues with compatibility and footprint and all that, so.
Okay, good.
But Chair is correct. We don't want to lose this opportunity.
Okay,
Okay, well, on to 9E, which is the Commissioner Appreciation Dinner at Sarasota Park, which I'm very excited about. It'll be an opportunity to show off how far we've come along on the upgrades and office remodel. So, and I just think some of our other commissions it's been maybe quite a while since they've been over there, and it'll just kind of force the hand to get everyone in there, and it'll be in our multi-purpose room, and we can just, again, show off our department and our facility. So hopefully you've sent your RSVP to Amber, which is by tomorrow.
Great.
She's not here right now, but please get in touch. If you haven't done so already, please get in touch with her, and that's it on that topic.
okay.
All right.
Thank you, Sophocles.
Yep.
Okay, commissioners' reports and comments. Do we have any comments? No latest, greatest?
Nope.
And council liaison report, Mr. Blatz, the floor is yours.
Mayor Blatz.
Hi, Paul.
go Nordoff this weekend.
Yes.
Be nice if they can win. With the fine coaching staff, we've got an excellent chance.
We have a lot of good coaches out there.
Yes, yeah, and a lot of good players, too.
Great players.
Yeah, so I'm hoping that they can pull it off, that's for sure. Be nice.
Yep.
I don't have anything in particular. I hope to see as many of you as I can next Friday night for the appreciation dinner. The one last year was really nice, and so I hope hope as many of you can be there as possible.
Great.
Not much that I can think of to report. We have a council meeting on Tuesday night. And there's a few things going on. You know, we're looking at the second dwelling unit issues, which are part of the general plan that we're taking a look at. I spent the afternoon interviewing applicants for the Planning Commission. That's why I was a little late coming in. Our last interview was at 6 o'clock. We have 3 positions that were open. One only because of the term expiring on 2, and we've reapproved and appointed Kathy Nolan, whose term was up. And then Troy Becker, whose term was up, has decided that he's been on it long enough. I think your dad was on for close to 10 years or more.
Something like that, yeah.
Because I think he was on when I was on, and that was at least 8 years or 9 years ago. So he's said that he's had enough, so we're looking for one opening there. And then Orville, who was recently appointed 8 or 9 months ago, is having trouble making it to the meetings, and he's decided that his time constraint isn't working out with the amount of work that's required for the Planning Commission. So we have another opening there. So we have 2 openings for the Planning Commission, and we've had 7 applicants that we've interviewed.
Wow.
So we'll be bringing that back before the full council for their appointment next week. And it looks to me like everything's moving along pretty well with the construction. I'm looking forward to seeing it next week too.
Yeah.
And I think that the programs, I can't tell you the feeling that I get when I talk to people in the community and the feeling that I get now with regard to our recreation programs is so significantly improved since where we were a year ago. I mean, it's just amazing, absolutely amazing. Whether it be anything from Ojai Day to the programs that we're offering through the parks, through the rec department, it's the difference between day and night, and a lot of it has to do with the leadership that the department's getting from Steve and you as the Park and Recs Commission. So I really do appreciate that.
Thank you, Paul.
Yeah, you have any questions of me, I'll be glad to answer. No?
No, I think we're set. Well,
All right.
Looking forward to
Well,
seeing
thank
you next Friday.
Yeah, I'll be there. Thank you very much again for all your hard work.
Okay, thank you, Paul. Okay, future meeting dates and agenda items. January 2nd, boy, that's, are you guys all going to be recovered from the 1st? Do we have any games that night?
Oh, well, that would be the national championship game.
Well, it's either the 2nd, 3rd, or 4th, and now that
But there'll be games on for sure. So staff is available, but trying to be respectful of the commissioner's schedule. So if you want to, we could try to postpone that a week. Maybe that might be best.
No, I was joking. I'm free. Are you guys
Schedules. I wouldn't
you free?
cancel.
Cancel?
I say we push it a week.
I think so.
I don't know.
Great, listen, hey, it's another night of football for me. I'm happy. So we're looking at, instead of the 2nd, the 7th, or the 9th? Is that in any
That would
conflict
work
with this room?
Yeah. there
Right.
might be a
I
space
mean, we need to
problem.
see if it conflicts with anything else.
Yeah, I should have.
It might be our one night to have it out at the park.
Oh, there you go.
That is an option.
It's a great idea.
I think that's a great idea.
I think we move it to the
So we
park.
move
That's
it to
actually a
we move
great
it to the
idea. You
9th
know
and
that,
decide
Steve?
on the venue based on availability.
Steve,
Sure.
I think you need your.
Thank you.
Sure.
I would be remiss if I didn't mention that there is at least one member of the council that feels pretty strongly that we should try to hold as many meetings of commissions and committees here at City Hall. But ultimately, that's, it's up to the commission on where you would like to meet. So if you want to try, we could schedule something for the second Thursday.
So the January 9th.
Right, that works for us.
We'd like to, and
Yeah.
try,
I think that'd be a
At
different
Surzati?
change and
Right.
and see if we can get, out there, so.
I'm sorry, did you say Sarasota?
Yes.
Yes, there could be a space, there'll definitely be a space issue, depending on where we want to hold that. It
We're gonna have
wouldn't
in
be
the
available in the
gymnasium.
multipurpose room, because we have adult kung fu on that night.
well,
Uh,
well, at this point, let's just try to say that we'll try to meet the second Thursday of the month. And we'll work on finding an appropriate
Location to be
venue.
determined, yeah, okay.
And we'll figure that out and let you know.
Hey, we've got a big gymnasium, a big facility. Surely there's a room
Yeah.
that can accommodate.
Well, basketball.
8 of us, 9 of us?
Well, there'll be
Well-
basketball practice in the gym Thursday
Okay.
night.
And let me check, January can be a funny month, it may be that this room is available at that time, so I'm sorry, I should have been a little more
Great.
prepared for that.
Yeah, our art room could potentially be available.
That's
It's
true.
it's fairly tight quarters, though, for a commission meeting, but.
We'll figure it out.
Right.
Real quick question. Where are we at with the outdoor basketball court? Have we thought about that anymore?
So that is on the plans, it's tentatively on the capital improvement plan for fiscal year 14-15.
14, 15, okay,
And it is still on there.
okay.
So we need to continue to work towards that in the next few months in terms of looking at potential locations and whatnot. And then hopefully, if that plan stays, solvent, then we'll have that money for next year and we could actually begin implementing that, so.
So next committee meeting.
Yep.
We'll discuss it next committee
It's
meeting and just try to look at some locations and different
Yep,
things. There may be some.
but thank you for bringing it up.
Yeah.
Keep these things, it's good not to let these things fall off the plate. And then, I'm sorry?
Go ahead.
I just wanted to mention a couple of items that are coming up to the city council that may be of interest to the Parks Commission. I don't know that any of these have a particular strong recreation or park slant, so just my interpretation. Because I think it's of citywide interest. As you know, we've been trying to put a lot of money into the streets and the roads to try to get back up to speed with that. We've been falling behind. We have fallen behind, and it's going to take some real concerted effort to try to get caught back up again. But there is a contract for road rehabilitation that's going to City Council on December 10th. So we're continuing to put our money where our mouth is on that. This may have some interest to the commission because I know it does affect the parks. There's been some recent discussion about, and to me, it's all different sides of the same coin, whether we're talking about the crime and the loitering issues that occur in Libby Park or Sarzati Park or behind the arcade. And the reason why I say that is because largely it's the same individuals and they tend to move from location to location depending on where they're feeling the heat and the pressure. We did have some recent issues in the arcade area there. And we're going to hear a verbal report from the police chief at the December 10th meeting. It appears that we've been able to make some immediate impacts to address some of the concerns with the loitering and the drug use and things like that was going on right behind the arcade. The police was able to get some immediate cooperation with some property owners to put up some cameras, and things have turned around pretty quickly. But as we know is often the case, if you start enforcing in one area, it tends to then push the activity to other areas. So I think part of what we're seeing, you put some focus on Libby, and then you start seeing more stuff popping up in Sarzati or other parts in town or behind the arcade. So, but we will hear a report from the police chief specifically on the issues with the arcade at the December 10th meeting. And beyond that, just a note, and this is way down the road, but as is our regular custom, in the Parks Commission meets once a year jointly with the city council, and again, we have that scheduled at this point to occur at the first city council meeting in August, so that's a ways off. And that's all that I have, Mr. Chair, members of the commission.
Okay, great. Then I believe we're adjourned. Good evening.
Thank you.
See what I'm gonna do is, I'm gonna review all